Hello! Welcome back to Let It Cook. Today we're making a classic, pea soup with croutons.
For this, we need beef broth, pepper, starchy potatoes, nutmeg, onions, pine nuts, mint, peas, a bit of sugar, and salt. Here I have a little splash of vermouth, cream, a bit of sour cream for decoration, lemon, rye bread, pumpkin seed oil, and butter. Okay, let's get started. Sounds like quite a few ingredients. You can swap out anything you want. Today I'm using mint and pumpkin seed oil, which I think is an awesome combo.
You can give it a try. Basically, you could also add some bacon bits. In that case, of course, you would leave out the mint. Those two don't go together very well.
So this is just my version of it. So cut the potatoes into fairly large pieces, depending on how much mixture you actually have. You just want a creamy consistency, right? I'll start with this one for now. Maybe that's enough.
You can chop the onions roughly since we'll blend everything later. The soup should be smooth.
All right, chop, chop, exactly. Here's what I'll say up front. I might get backlash. I didn't know this, but I always call everything rye bread. In some regions of Germany, though, you can't call it that.
I don't know what it's called there. Feel free to write in the comments what you call this kind of bread. For us, it's rye bread, simply because it's a bit darker.
I don't know another name for it. I can already hear, that's not rye bread, that's gray bread.
I've never heard the word gray bread before. I just had that left over.
That's perfect for making croutons. I also have pine nuts now, which are always expensive.
But I still had them in the fridge. I always like to keep them in the fridge so bugs don't get in.
I have some left. I'll add it to the pea soup now.
So you don't get sick or take any risks, you can just leave it out, of course. You can substitute anything you have here with something else. I've also heard lately that I cook too expensively.
When I say to use quality meat from the butcher, I don't mean you can't choose a different kind. It's your choice. I just always think that if you're going to cook something with meat, then you might as well cook it with good quality meat. Instead of always buying something from those big discount stores with husbandry type A, where the animals are kept in small cages. I'm just not a big fan of that.
Of course, it's always about whether you can afford it. I understand that.
And now a piece of butter in there. Oh, I made something a bit too hot.
You can also add clarified butter. I'll put a recipe up here for you on how to make it yourself. That's even better.
You can fry clarified butter at a slightly higher temperature. It won't burn. With clarified butter, you can fry at a higher heat.
Briefly roasted. Now you can add the peas. Saute them once. Now season the peas right away with salt, pepper, and a bit of nutmeg.
Also add a pinch of sugar. Not too much sugar, of course. Just a little to balance it out. The peas are already quite sweet anyway, so you hardly need any sugar. Add salt. I always find a bit of nutmeg incredibly tasty in the pea soup. If you don't like it, just leave it out. You can add the potatoes now.
I've told you before, soups usually start the same way. Sauté ingredients, then deglaze with your choice.
What makes a good soup? A good soup depends on homemade broth. I know. It's a bit annoying to make it yourself, sure. But that's what makes the difference. You can use a bouillon cube if you don't have time. But it's just a whole different level when you make it for your family and cook with real broth. It really tastes completely different. Once it's a bit sautéed like this, add a splash of vermouth. Just leave it out for kids and don't add anything. Just use broth. That just gives us a nice bit of acidity. You can also use a little white wine. In my opinion, vermouth has a slight acidity, but you can also use it if kids are eating with you. Because the soup is simmering a bit now, I'm letting it reduce. All the alcohol is evaporating right now. Take it easy. It's simmering away. There's maybe 20 milliliters of white wine in there. That really doesn't matter. Next, we'll add the broth.
When the white wine or vermouth has reduced by about half, you deglaze the whole thing with broth.
We'll let the whole thing cook for about 20 minutes now. The potato just needs to get soft. Just stick a fork in the potato. We'll let it cook for 20-25 minutes.
While the soup simmers, let's make the croutons or crunchy mix by adding some butter.
I've turned the pan on a bit.
You know, Hoffman pans. I'll leave you a link for that as well. Of course, it's also a nice gift.
By the way, I do get a small cut if you order one through my link. That way, you're supporting me as well.
It's basically like a small donation if you want, but I'm not selling you any crap. I'm really convinced by these pans. This stuff is awesome.
If you ever damage the coating, you just send it back, and for 20 or 25 euros, you can get a new coating put on.
I think that's much more sustainable than always buying a new pan. And now this black bread, gray bread.
Or however you want. Do you put it in there now, right along with the pine nuts? Because I also want to roast them a little bit together. Always add a little salt right away.
You can put a bit of paper towel on a plate. That way, after they're roasted, they can drain a little and some of the butter will come out.
They're now roasted to a golden yellow. You can put them on the paper towel for later. Oh, unfortunately, I have tennis elbow at the moment, which is holding me back a bit, in case you're wondering why I'm moving around so stiffly here.
Unfortunately, it's not from playing tennis, but from using the computer. I edit the videos for you. My old arm can't handle it. If only it were from tennis.
Now add the cream to the peas. Now we can add a splash of lemon juice to the sour cream that I have here. Just a little splash. I squeezed the lemon. Don't add the lemon too early.
The white wine also isn't really good for the peas, because everything that's green has chlorophyll, and chlorophyll and acid turn gray.
Pea soup is fine because it's so colorful. You can add some acid. I've explained this before. When working with green herbs like parsley or mint, add acid, including lemon juice, only at the end, just before serving.
I only add that once the soup is finished. Just a little splash for seasoning, to make it fresher. Now, test with a small fork to see if the potatoes are nice and soft.
Not yet. We need to let it cook about 5 more minutes.
You can use schmand, creme fraiche, or regular sour cream. Any kind works, and it's a bit healthier. I always stir it until it's a bit smooth. If that's not enough, if it's too thick, like it is here, just add a little splash of water or milk or whatever you have at home and stir it until it's really smooth and gets a milky consistency.
You can drizzle that a bit over the soup. It just looks really awesome. It's a bit of showmanship, and of course it tastes good too. You can also season it a bit with salt and pepper, so it actually has some flavor.
That was just the bell for you. Here's a tip. Somewhere down here, there's a bell. If you click on it, you'll get a notification.
I know it annoys loyal fans, but I have to keep mentioning it. For the newcomers among you, I hope there are many. Go ahead and subscribe and leave a like. Of course, thumbs up. It can even be a little bit more liquid. Exactly, and now just stir until it's nice and smooth, then set it aside.
Once the potatoes are soft, we'll meet again soon. Now I'll blend the soup. I have to repeat it. Elisa, where are you? I miss you.
Elisa actually provided me with this beautiful blender. I have to thank her again for that. I use it almost every day.
She sent it to me out of kindness. I haven't heard from her in a while.
That fits in perfectly. And now just the mint. Of course, we've washed it, even though it's already a bit old.
I always wash the herbs right after I buy them, and then put them in a zip bag while they're still damp.
That's just the best way to keep them fresh. So if you wrap them in a paper towel, put them in a damp paper towel, and then into a zip bag.
Change the towel from time to time. That way they won't go bad.
And now let it blend thoroughly. I'll turn it off for a moment. You can't hear me anyway. Now let it blend until everything is really fine.
I've prepared a fine hair sieve here and a ladle, so we can strain it again to make it really nice and smooth.
You can see it still has great color. That's the best part of pea soup. Now just strain it once.
I've been asked many times what kind of sieve this is. It's actually from my apprenticeship. I took it with me back then. I got a professional sieve as a gift from my boss.
I'll link you to one from a big online retailer. It's similar. You can check it out, because I really think something like this belongs in every kitchen.
A conical sieve like this is just super practical, and you should definitely get one. You can see how well you can puree things in there. And now you can just press it through with a ladle like this.
Many people don't strain soup because they want to keep those bits in it.
I believe soup shouldn't be too thick. You'll see soon. I'm making it even thinner now, since I've added a lot of broth, maybe even a splash of water.
Simply because I don't like it when soups are so thick. Those baby food-like soups, I'm just not into that.
Okay, it's actually not too thick at all. But I just add a little splash of water so it gets a really nice silky consistency. Just not too thick.
And this creaminess, this velvety texture you have in there now, that's actually from the potato. That's really, really nice.
Now add a little squeeze of lemon juice. Use only a little so the flavor doesn't dominate.
Let's test if we have enough juice, salt, and pepper. The consistency is perfect.
Silky smooth and shiny, amazing. A small pinch of salt can still go in, not too much. There, that's enough. We can plate it up.
Here's a little tip from the professional kitchen. When you're plating, always use a small bowl, a small plate, a little bowl. For plating, always use a ladle. Bam! Hold it underneath and then plate it up.
That way you don't get those drops on the edge of the plate, you know?
There you go.
If you don't want to do that with the white sauce, for example, you can also just put a little bit of whipped cream underneath.
So, whipped cream adds lightness. It's just as tasty, maybe even better. Okay, next comes the white mixed sour cream part. A bit more decorative. I'll put a little bit on now so it looks a bit nice. Now you can run the back of the spoon through it once if you want. Now a few drops of the pumpkin seed oil on top.
Look how awesome that looks.
Now we add our crunchy mix. I'll also put a few pine nuts in the middle.
A few can also go around the edge. Of course, I also need a nice photo. That's obvious. And a mint leaf on top.
Now there's only one thing left for us. This beautiful painting. I really think it looks just like a painting. Bob Ross would be thrilled.
By the way, I'm a big fan of Bob Ross. If you ever can't relax, just watch an episode of Bob Ross and you'll calm down again.
And now let's try it. It doesn't get better than this. I love it. Do you like it as much as I do? I think it's a fantastic combination with the mint and the pumpkin seed oil. It goes together wonderfully. It really tastes delicious. This is an awesome appetizer.
Or you can make it for 2 people. Then it also makes a nice main course.
You can't add wieners unless you skip the mint. Then you could slice in a few wieners to make it a main course. But as I said, leave out the mint if you do that.
Remember to subscribe and like. See you next week. Enjoy your meal. Bye.